three fabulous companies have come together for a fun blog hop collaboration between Catherine Pooler Designs, Heffy Doodle and Embossing Powder. I used a variety of their products to create this beautiful winter scene where you truly feel like you're walking in a winter wonderland. I'm Verity and welcome to my blog Pretty Little Button, where I make paper crafting tutorials for the everyday crafter. So let's get started. For this winter scene, I'm going to be using the Alpine Village stamp set from Catherine Pooler Designs, and first of all the first snow stencil from Heffy Doodle. So I'm just getting the stencil positioned over my cardstock. Now it's a great stencil because it can add snow effect to your card, but also it has a couple of sort of mound or snow hill shapes to the edge, which you can blend off of. So I've added this on top of a piece of Catherine Pooler Designs white cardstock. And I'm just keeping it taped down with some washi tape. And then I'm just using some post-it notes to cover up the snow part of the stencil because I don't want to ink over that bit just yet. For the inks for this card, I'm using Catherine Pooler Designs, which are great for blending. And I have got a selection of blues. So I've started off with Juniper Mist, Queen for a Day, Suede Shoes, and Stone Blue. So I'm first of all starting off with the lightest colour, Stone Blue, and I'm blending this off the stencil to create that mound sort of snow hill shape. And I'm starting off with the lightest colour because you want the lightest colour down by the horizon. And I'm going for a sort of a dark winter night sky. Once I've added the Stone Blue to the bottom of the sky, I'm then starting to go in with some Suede Shoes. Now, don't worry if your ink blending isn't the best to begin with, because as you add the colour and add more colours to the card, you can start blending it a lot more. Now I've gone in with Queen for a Day to add some darker tones to the top and a bit of a purple tone, just to add a little bit of richness and warmth to it. Now at the end you won't notice it that much, but it just adds a slight undertone at the top to give it a bit of a warmer winter sky. I'm then going back to my Suede Shoes to blend the Queen for a Day a bit more, get that transition more, and also transition a bit more into the Stone Blue. And then after that, I'm then going in with Juniper Mist. So this is the darkest navy blue that Catherine Pooler has. It adds a real depth to the night sky at the top. Now, what I find is best is just to use circular motions, starting off of the card and then bringing your blending brush onto the card. And then just using a light hand and building the colour up, so going back between all of those colours, overlapping them, blending the colours together to get a smooth transition. And it does take a bit of time to build the colour up and to get that lovely sky effect. Now I've removed that stencil and just repositioned it because I'm then going to use some embellishment mousse, embellishment paste, whatever you have in your stash that's white, just to go through the stencil to add the snow effect over that sky. So I'm using the falling snow within the stencil from Heffy Doodle to add a very wintry feel to that sky. It's a lovely stencil because they aren't uniform circles or shapes in that falling snow, which reflects the true nature of snow. And then obviously once you go and peel it off, you get this beautiful winter sky with a snowbank. Now you can just add a few details if you wanted to really keep that winter style, or with myself I go on and add a few extra stamping images. So I'm using the Alpine Village stamp set from Catherine Pooler Designs, and I'm going to ink them up in two colours. Now I stamped the whole of the stamp in Sandcastle Catherine Pooler ink, which is a lovely sort of sandy brown colour. And then once I've stamped those twice, just to get a nice even look to them, I'm then going to go in and add some detail to the stamp. And I'm using Icing on the Cake by Catherine Pooler Designs. It's a lovely darker brown. Now I've just moving my misty to one side so you can see this, and I've just popped a bit of the Heffy Doodle stencil backing beneath it so you can see what I'm doing. I'm just inking up select areas of the stamp. Now, it might look a bit messy what I'm doing here at this moment, but don't worry, I'm going to go and clean it up with a baby wipe and just remove the ink on the areas of the stamp I don't want. So I'm just trying to get the roofs and the window frames of the church in darker brown, just to highlight those a little bit and just give a little bit more interest to the stamped image. So once I've cleaned that all up, I can then close my misty door because I've not moved my cardstock, and it will just restamp back over the top, adding the brown effect. Now I did this twice, and the second time I didn't wipe off the ink as well as I thought I had, and the church window on the left hand side was a little bit messy and had a little bit of the residual icing on the cake on the wall. Now, I could have restarted this again, stamped it all over again, but I didn't really want to. I'd spent that time doing that. I didn't want to waste my efforts. So I will show you that I use these on my card, but I just position another stamped image over the top to cover up that mistake. So nobody will ever know, except from you that watched the video. Okay, so the Alpine Village stamp set does have coordinating dies, and I'm just positioning them over the top, keeping them in place with some purple tape to die cut these images out. And then for the card, I'm also going to stamp the Christmas tree from the I Want to Build a Snowman stamp set from Heffy Doodle Designs. Now I'm stamping this in Wow Clear Ultra Slow Drying Embossing ink because I plan to heat emboss this tree. I want to heat emboss it because then I want to do a bit of easy heat emboss resist to colour it. So I'm covering this in metallic Rich Gold Superfine Embossing Powder, and I think my ink pad was a little bit dry, so I didn't get the best initial impression of the stamp. It's a little bit patchy with my embossing powder, but because I haven't removed my stamp from my Misty Door, I can just position it back in, ink the stamp back up, and re-stamp over the top with the same ink and the same stamp. This will then allow me to cover it with the same heat embossing, and then I get a perfect heat emboss stamp, and it's got a beautiful thick layer of embossing that's lovely and smooth. Now I wanted to colour this, so what I'm using is one of the new Catherine Paula inks. This is Deck the Halls ink, and I'm just taking it directly to paper, pressing my ink pad down over that embossing powder. Now the embossing powder will resist that, and all I have to do is buff it off with a clean dry towel, and the embossing powder just shines through. This is a really quick way of colouring a stamped image if you don't want to use your markers. So for the sentiments on these cards, I'm using 2 of these sentiment stamps from the Want to Build a Snowman stamp set from Heffy Doodle Designs. I'm using the Walk in a and Winter Wonderland. Now I'm going to heat emboss these in different colours just to add a little bit more variation to the sentiments and make them sort of stand out. Again, my Wow Clear Ultra Slow Drying Embossing ink, and I've prepped my black cardstock because I do get my fingerprints everywhere most of the time. And then I'm just stamping this using my Misty stamping tool, doing that so I can stamp it again because these are sentiments. I want to get a really good impression so it's nice and clear. Now one of the sentiments I've covered with the metallic Rich Gold embossing powder to match the tree. Then I'm heat embossing the other one in my superfine white embossing powder from Wow, which just, when heat set, is really crisp and bold on a black cardstock. Okay, so to add a little bit of interest to the tree, I'm going to use my Wow embossing pen, and I'm just adding dabs of the embossing ink into the little baubles on the tree where I've heat embossed. I'm doing this because then I'm going to cover it with some embossing glitter and heat set that, just to add a little sparkle and shine to the tree. So the embossing glitter I'm going to be using here is the Cranberry Sparkle from Wow Embossing Powders in conjunction with Catherine Paula Designs, that pairs with our new Cranberry Fizz ink, which is beautiful. Now because this is embossing glitter, there will be glitter that will spread all over the little tree, so you will just want to use a paintbrush just to brush off those bits of glitter. In addition, you will want to heat set this initially from the back because of the glitter. You want it to melt before the glitter can blow off. You can always then bring it to the front just to briefly finish off the melting of the embossing powder. And this is very subtle, but in the light just adds a tiny little bit of lovely red shine to the tree, which just finishes off that little Christmas tree. Okay, so to complete the card, I have all my pieces ready to assemble, and I'm adding some foam pad to the back of my die cuts, and I'm just layering them up with different dimension to add a little bit of interest. Now this is where you'll see that I go and cover up my little mistake on that church, on the window on the left, where I have a bit of messy inking. And I do position the Christmas tree over the top of that. Now I'm also positioning some of the houses that I stamped and die cut off the edge of the card panel, which I'll just trim down because this then makes it look like you sort of caught this winter scene and captured it in like a photograph, rather than it sort of everything being onto the card where it may not look as natural. To finish off this card, I've also added a few sequins. These sequins come from the Catherine Pooler's Oak City Sequin Mix, which came out in the Nordic Woods release. And these have some lovely gold and coppery tones, which really pairs well with the gold embossing powders that I used on the tree and the sentiment. And this just adds a little bit more sparkle and shine to finish this lovely winter scene off. As I mentioned, this is part of a blog hop between Catherine Pooler Designs, Wow Embossing Powders and Heffy Doodle. It's part of a blog hop and giveaway, so if you're watching this over on my YouTube channel, do check out the link to my blog in the description box below, where you can leave a comment and hop along for your chance to win. I hope this video has inspired you to start creating more of your Christmas cards and also looking at how you can combine different products from different companies to create beautiful cards. I really love how the ink blending on this card has really created a lovely winter scene where it makes me feel like I truly am walking in a winter wonderland. If you enjoyed today's video, please give it a thumbs up and why not subscribe to the channel? You can hit that bell icon to be notified when my next video is up. If you're shopping at the Wow Embossing Powder shop, there is also a discount code on screen for 10% off your next purchase. Until next time, happy crafting!